grew up an only child, and my dad, we had a relationship. He's a very stern father, and I was just a very rebellious child. My mom would kind of let me get away with murder, and she didn't know any better. Sort of enabled a lot of my behavior. But he taught me everything that I needed to know. And when I was 9, I was hit by a car. I had a traumatic brain injury. I was coming down a steep driveway and I went into the windshield of a car and it flung me like 40, 60 feet down the road. I was unresponsive at the scene. They revived me at the hospital and I was in a coma for 2 weeks. From there I had to go to special schools. My dad had to shell out thousands of dollars for tutors and like 6 to 8 person classroom settings so I could get more individualized attention and stuff. And I went to a several $100,000 college preparatory boarding school for high school, wore a blazer and tie, and I actually was a good student there. And then I tried to go to college, and then I was just helpless because it was such a independent part of life. It's up to you to do the work and stuff, so I just couldn't do it. And that's when I started, I really got into the skateboarding culture then. I had started when I was 12, but around college time, I was playing in a punk rock band and playing drums, and I had this pipe dream that either I was going to be some professional skateboarder or some famous musician. And so while everybody's like buckling down on degrees and stuff, I'm chasing this stuff over here and slowly beginning to spiral with the alcoholism. Is starting to the snowball effect of losing this job or crashing this car, ruining this relationship. And I always had an excuse that it wasn't the person in the mirror. There was never accountability and me taking responsibility for my actions. I just lived in a state of denial with my alcoholism. And every time something didn't go right or didn't meet an expectation I had, I would fall further back into that drinking. I had hit a parked car. I took off running from the police. So I racked up like several charges, and while my attorney he had postponed everything, the court date and all this stuff. So while I'm in that little bit of time, I wound up getting a second DUI. The judge, when I finally went to court, he was like, "Mr. Taylor, you're looking at 5 years in prison for all this stuff, but I'm gonna do you a favor. I've got a program I'm gonna send you to called Teen Challenge in Pensacola, Florida, and it's a year." Of course, I'm like, I don't want to go to prison for 5 years. My mom had passed, and so I had really gone off the deep end because of that. I couldn't ever get sober long enough to begin to deal with her passing. I just kept burying myself with alcohol and drugs. And my case manager kept suggesting going to programs, and I remember she actually said, "Well, I've got one, it's called A Better Way," and she told me how long it was. I was like, that's even longer than the one I had to go to in Florida. I'm not going to do that. My dad just came over to my apartment one day and said, "Look, case manager's got this program. Try it. What's it gonna hurt? I mean, look at the point where you're at right now. You're pretty much jobless. You don't want to go to work. You won't even go out and look for work." And I didn't want to give up control of my life, even though I didn't have any control. The alcohol and the drugs had control of me, and so I finally surrendered. I said, "Yeah, I'll go. I gotta do something." I got here and I was very, very bitter for the first few months because I was mad at myself that I had done what I had done and landed me in a position like this. From that 10th month somewhere, I started living with this sense of gratitude. It's cliche doing the next right thing, but I mean, it's really just do the next right thing. And I started about 2 months ago going, oh my God, this thing's almost over. It was a good feeling and a kind of uh-oh feeling at the same time. I started to really look inside and say, okay, what all have I learned? What all am I going to take away from this experience? I had a background founded in Jesus. I knew who Jesus was. I knew the Bible. But I didn't realize that there's a real spiritual war going on out there in the world. And really what the flesh was really all about. I'll never forget Jerry Powell. At the warehouse, he just came up to me one day and put his hand on my shoulder and said, Chris, I see something in you, dude. You're all right, and you're gonna be all right. And I didn't like Jerry at all. I was like, who does this guy think he is, barking orders at everybody? But I fell in love with Jerry. He encouraged me all the time. And so then I just really started doing what I could to make a difference. And that's when everything changed. I went to the altar one morning, and I really just said, okay. Do something, because I can't do anything. So I surrender. I really didn't think it was possible, but they really did change me. And it was all about that complete surrender. And so there's nothing out there but chaos and misery. And I've had enough of that. I'm really surprised I'm even alive today to talk about it. I'm going to do my best to stick with the ministry and stay around here. But it just feels like home. It feels like where I'm supposed to be. One guy told me one time, he said, you are home, buddy. What are you talking about, home? Threw his arm around me, he said, you are home. And I said, you know what? I am. I'm in the Lord's house. And that's where I'm supposed to be.